In Christian tradition, Christ is the Logos, the universal reason, and traditional Christian teaching is that we're all one body in Christ. In the Gospel of Mark, in a section of scripture bookended by 2 healings of blind men, Christ tells us that we should not desire to impose our will on others. This is Christ speaking to our pathos or emotions. Christ tells us we should not think that we are more virtuous than others simply because they belong to a different group. This is Christ speaking to our logos or reason. Christ tells us that we should not think that the sacrifice of ourselves for our faith makes us more worthy than others. This is Christ speaking to our ethos or source of moral authority. Christ rejects these attitudes towards other people because holding such attitudes towards others will inevitably lead to conflict with others. Each of these teachings is associated with a prophecy of the Passion. In Christianity, conflict is resolved through dialogue. The root of the word dialogue is logos. In his book Timaeus, Plato writes of a world soul bringing order to the world. That world soul is described right at the start of the Gospel of Mark.
At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. Just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased."
In the scripture, that ones who devoutly followed religious law were the Pharisees, and the Pharisees held deep-seated prejudices against those who failed to follow religious law.
Again he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to them, "Is it lawful, on the Sabbath, to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill?" But they were silent. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him.
The withered hand is symbolic. The man, zealous for the law, cannot reach out to the one who rejects it. Whilst the Pharisees were the law followers, the Herodians were those who held wealth and power. Jesus was a threat to both. He warned that if we neglected to feed those who were hungry, that they would be seduced by those who followed a different God.
The disciples had forgotten to bring bread, except for 1 loaf they had with them in the boat. "Be careful," Jesus warned them. "Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and that of Herod."
In contrast to Christianity, Muslims are taught that the world is divided into a house of Islam, the Ummah, and a house of war, the infidel. It is the duty of every devout Muslim to work to establish a caliphate under Islamic law. This should be first attempted through dawah and invitation, and then through jihad or religious war. The different theologies produce entirely different world views. Countries with a Christian heritage, by and large, are democracies. They value individual liberty and free speech. Countries with an Islamic heritage do not. Charlie Kirk explains.
I'm an Iranian American born and raised in Southern California. Yes, sir. Persian New Year's this
I
week.
love Persians. Very smart people.
I appreciate that. There's been an Islamic terrorist regime occupying Iran since 1979. Before the Islamic Revolution, Iran was one of the most thriving countries in the 60s and 70s. Since the revolution, the middle class has died out, women are lacking basic rights, and the youth are all addicts on opium in the streets. The Islamic regime continues to fund terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, Taliban, and Hamas, while the Iranian people are dying and starving in the streets. What needs to happen to overthrow this regime, and does that involve the West?
Well, I will say this. I'm not one to overly play into CIA narratives. It's America's fault that Iran is currently under the current regime occupation. I mean, you know the history, right? So you had the Shah, There was a democratically elected Masugde. I always mispronounce it, right? But I was close enough,
Yeah,
right?
that was close.
And then he wants to nationalize the oil. Some goofy stuff happens. We get involved and displace him and put the Shah back in when he's sick, super unpopular, and then you get radicalism, right? So I'm not one to overplay into America bad. This was a royal screw-up on behalf of the American Central Intelligence Agency and the British intelligence. So when you say, what do we have to do to regime change? I'm like, maybe we should sit this one out, let the Iranian people figure it out themselves. In a sense, I'm cheering for Iran to get this sorted out. It has to be youth-led. You know the numbers better than I do, but I think that like half of the population's under the age of 30 in Iran.
Yeah.
Is that right?
More than half of the, is between 18 and 30 years old.
It has to be. Here's the tragedy, that Iran has a incredible history of being a great nation, a wealthy nation. Persians that come to this country are wealthy and entrepreneurial and incredible people. And Iran is basically a third world country right now. Am I correct?
You are exactly correct.
And it's a tragedy. And it's only because Iran is being terrorized by an Islamic theocratic regime. Would you agree with that assessment?
I couldn't agree more.
So as far as what America can do, I mean, I don't know, we could probably make it worse is what we could probably do. But I'm cheering for the people of Iran to overthrow this current government. I truly am. Because the people of Iran are some of my favorite people I get to meet, and they're some of the most pro-American people when they come to this country. What is the best model for a Muslim country in your view?
I guess, like, I mean, I really can't answer that. I guess you just have to kind of, like...
Do you enjoy not having to cover yourself in public?
Yeah, I guess.
So that you don't like Islam very much then, because majority of Islamic countries would require you to have full garb in public.
That's not fair to say that, because...
In Saudi Arabia, could you dress like this in Saudi Arabia?
What am I dressed as? I'm wearing a t-shirt.
No, I know exactly. You can't dress like that's way too much skin for Saudi Arabia. Could you show that much skin in Egypt? Could you show this much skin in Iran?
Yes, you can, because there's different religions. There's different religions there.
No, you can't. I'm sorry. This is the point. Is that?
But that's Islamophobia. You're basically
No, it's not
saying
Islamophobic. It's factual. You literally could not dress like this in the streets of Riyadh as a woman. This is way too provocative. Way too much skin. When we say Islamophobia, you as a woman should stand up against Islam and its treatment of women.
So that is Islamophobia to stand against Islam, though.
No. Again, there's no such thing as Islamophobia. It's Islamic realism. Do you think women's should be clipped at age 8 to make sure they don't have any sexual pleasure? It's called female genital mutilation. Do you believe in that?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Do you think female should be clipped at age of 8 to make sure they do not have sexual pleasure for the rest of their life?
No.
That happens in almost every major Muslim majority country.
And that happens with Christians too, though.
No, it does not. No, it does not. No, it does not. So you as a woman should stand up against Islam because you as a Western woman are now able to dress like this. You're able to experience sex with pleasure. You can say what you want. You cannot do that in most Muslim countries. Most Muslim countries, you as a woman, you'd be subjected. Your testimony doesn't matter in court. You don't have freedom of speech. You can't run for public office. You can't own property. You can't even drive.
You can't get an education.
You can't get an
go to the
education.
gym, can't go see a male doctor,
So
but
you're
they don't
saying that I
allow
shouldn't
women
be
to be
Muslim?
doctors.
I'm sorry, what?
So what I'm trying to get is that you're saying I shouldn't be Muslim. I should.
No, I'm saying you as a woman should have a lot of problems with Islam. You should, absolutely.
Of course I do, and that's
I'm
why
saying, but-
I'm like not conforming to certain it. But we have moved so much through society.
Islam has not moved. In Iran, you couldn't dress like this. You couldn't talk like this. The point is this. Islam is against Western values. It's incompatible with Western values. And we in the West actually think you should have the rights that you have right now to speak and to be able to show, the skin you show here and, be able to have a happy life. And in Saudi Arabia, and in Saudi Arabia or Iran, you cannot.
Do you agree with all of those like Arabs coming in or like Africans coming into Europe?
I think it's, first of all, it's a worldview thing. Number one, I'm very outspoken. I think Islam is incompatible with large parts of Western civilization. I think Islam is. But look, I mean, you make an important point. If you think you could just import millions of people into your country and assimilation will happen overnight just because they're going to start eating at McDonald's and In-N-Out Burger and wearing blue jeans, it's not true. And so we want unity and assimilation. And quite honestly, that's why I think we should shut off all immigration, legal and illegal, for the time being, and as we did in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, early 60s.
I come from a family of Mexicans. I'm Mexican ethnicity, and I'm an American citizen. I was born here. So my parents came here legally. They became residents and then later citizens. So I'm very grateful to be here legally. And my question for you was, you right now were saying that you think too many people are coming here legally from outside?
Yeah.
Could you expand on that? Because I just like to learn more about it and hear your perspective.
Well, we have too many illegal people, first and foremost, and we also have too many legal people. The illegal is a bigger issue, but the legal is still a big issue. My current focus is on the amount of Arab Muslims that are coming into this country that are not assimilating. And when you start to see tens of thousands of people march the streets chanting Middle Eastern phrases such as "Continue the Intifada, glory to our martyrs," I think we should ask ourselves, are we really bringing people into the country that share our values? So your family came here the right way. You've obviously learned English, right?
Yeah.
And you consider yourself an American. Let's look at just one community in particular. And I know I'm running the risk of, painting it with too broad of a brush, but the Somali Muslim community in Minnesota has not made deliberate attempts to assimilate with the American experience.
Yeah, I think illegal immigrants is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Because many people are quick to defend it, but the issue is when someone comes in illegally, they don't have representation. And I feel like a lot of people can go missing or bad things haven't happened.
Well, your family deserves great credit. They came here the right way, and I wish more people did. God bless you. Thank you.
In March 2026, iLEAD hosted a fundraiser in aid of Gaza for the One Ummah charity at Cardiff City Stadium. The event, titled The Divine Nights, featured Islamic scholar Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah. Mohammed Alamgir Ahmed introduced a new Muslim revert, Philip. As part of the event, Philip became a member of the Islamic community and recited the Shahada.
You testify that no one has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah, the one and only. Right? We believe in Jesus as a prophet. We believe in the previous prophets like Moses, right? And also Solomon and the rest of them. Abraham. We believe in all of them. You can't actually be Muslim until you believe in all of these prophets. Yes? So all of them are prophets, but we go directly to God, right? We don't go through any of the prophets that I just mentioned. Yes? So I'm going to say it in Arabic. I want you to repeat after me. Yes? Ashhadu.
Ashhadu.
An la.
Allah.
Ilaha.
Ilaha.
Illallah.
Illallah.
Wa ashhadu.
Wa ashhadu.
Anna.
Anna.
Muhammadan.
Muhammadan.
Abduhu.
Abduhu.
Wa rasuluh. Which basically means I testify that no one has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah. And that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is the final messenger. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar! Christ is revered in Islam, but the idea that the Muslim Christ bears any relation to the Christian Christ is risible. Young Christian apologist Avery Austin, otherwise known as GodLogic, challenged Muslim scholar Mohammed Hijab to an online debate.
Furqan mean? What does Furqan mean?
Furqan means criterion.
Okay, so what does it mean?
A standard of truth that tells you what's right and what's wrong. Guess what? The Quran says the Torah is Al-Furqan. According to your Quran, the Torah is Al-Furqan. In chapter 21, verse 48, and in chapter 2, verse 53, the Torah is Al-Furqan.
Hijab came out of the debate so badly that Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah felt it necessary to deliver a response where he invited Avery to Islam.
Now finally, I want to call you to Islam, Avery, right? Listen very, very carefully. You mentioned that Jesus is caused. Yes.
Say it again, sorry.
Can you be caused and uncaused at the same time?
Depends. Yeah, it depends on what you mean.
So let's get straight into it. The first claim. Yes, right? That's exactly the point that we peddle in Islam, right? That Jesus, may peace and blessings be upon him, who's a prophet. You can't actually be a Muslim until you believe he was a prophet. And insulting him will actually take you out of the fold of Islam, right? Being caused equals that he was created and that he is dependent. And anything that is dependent cannot be God. Because Allah, he tells us in our scripture, in our Quran, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say to them that Allah is one. Jesus, according to biblical scriptures, right? He was born, you can find this in Luke, right? Eats, again, right? In the book of Luke. Likewise sleeps, according to Mark. Depends on God. Refer to John, right? A being who is born, eats, sleeps, depends. How can he be God?
Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah seems unwilling or unable to understand symbolic narrative. Jesus is the divine reason, but God the Father is the moral authority. So, of course, Jesus depends on the Father. The three parts of the universal soul work as one. In a YouTube video entitled "Is Voting Halal or Haram?", Ustadh Abu Taymiyyah explains that laws come from Allah and argues that Muslims should vote en bloc for the candidate that does the most to further Sharia law.
But firstly, where did this whole shirk and kufr come from? Right? And I think it's only fair to touch on this. Think about it, my brothers and my sisters. When you are now voting someone into power, and he is now going to be adhering to man-made laws, right? As a Muslim, which laws should we be adhering to? The laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? We know that sovereignty, right, lawmaking, governance, belongs to who? None other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inil hukmu illa lillah. Sovereignty, lawmaking, right, governance, it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is He who puts down rules and regulations, laws that are in the best interest of the Muslims and society as a whole. Agreed?
Christians acknowledge the worth of Christ, the universal reason. If we cannot come to an understanding through dialogue conducted in goodwill, then all that is left is power.
Committing shirk with Allah is a crime. That's why I said every single kafir is a criminal.
Jihad is part of our religion. It's a concept in our religion, so I'm not going to be apologetic.
Jihad for the sake of Allah.
The reason why you have to fight them is because they are Jews and Christians. You should fight those empires around you, or those hukumat around you, which are Jew or Christian, until they give the jizya. That's fine. That we already know Islam allows. And then the howness of that is in the hadith. The three options that they're given: either you give the jizya, or you do this, or you do that. We're not apologetic about that point. That is truth. If your religion has to have an expansionist element, so then therefore there is no situation or conceivability of peace being made between Muslims and non-Muslims. Islam is a warrior religion in many ways, and it's unapologetically so. It's about expansion, it's about conquest and so on.
Because I wanted to save the little Palestinian babies. Of course I did. That's what I had always wanted to do. And when I worked with this agency, it became very clear very quickly that it was essentially just a tool to indoctrinate children and turn them into child soldiers.
Gazan children are taught from a very young age in public school to kill Israelis. Do you think it's normal for a child to learn to kill people and to hate people at such a young age? You know, you take any child wherever they're born, whether it's France or you take it from the United States of America. When you teach a young child to do something and he doesn't know better, you condition that child to understand that that's normal. So at a very young age, if people in Gaza, especially the children, are taught to hate Jews, what do you think these people are going to be doing when they get older? These aren't things that you can change perception on. When you're taught to hate somebody at a very young age, you're going to be conditioned to hate them your whole life.
بس أكدت لنا هاي الفيديوهات إنه هو ما كانش متخبي تحت الأرض، إنه بالعكس هو بقاوم بجاهد ضد اليهود. بس أكدت لنا هاي الفيديوهات إنه هو ما كانش متخبي تحت الأرض، إنه بالعكس هو بقاوم بجاهد ضد اليهود.
الذي رأيته في 7 أكتوبر هو معجزة تخطيطية يجب أن تدرس في أرقى الجامعات، لأن تخطيط شيء غير عادي وبتنسيق غير عادي. فالجماعة قاموا بما يطلب منهم وزيادة، وكونهم صمدوا بالنسبة لي هذا هو انتصار.
The Quran is giving us a blueprint, the map, the predictions, the prophecies of what is going to happen, and the tools that are required by the Muslims in order to deal with tyranny.
But the Muslims became the majority, and once they became the majority,
They were no longer tolerant of the people who took them in and accepted them and included them in the country. They felt they were not a part of the country, they felt they were a part of the Islamic Ummah or the Islamic nation. So when they turned against their brethren Christians who lived in the same country, and Jews, but specifically the Christians, they began massacring us in large numbers because they thought we are in power now and therefore we set the rules on how things should be. And that's really what drove the country into war.
Gaza is seen as, oh, Israel is occupying Gaza and people in Gaza are just, defending themselves. The same thing is going to happen in Europe. There will be enclaves in Europe that people will be seen as defending themselves. And European countries will be the new Israel. But instead of one Gaza and one Israel, we will have probably 20 Gaza and 20 Israels in Europe. The same narrative is going to happen again, the same story, the same footage that we will see. Look at the UK army or UK police killing children. Fortunately, that's the future of Western Europe. This is the only trajectory in Europe. We are too late now to any other limit because the numbers are going to bring that. And it's going to happen because it didn't only happen in Palestine or Lebanon or across the Middle East and North Africa. So it's going to happen in Western Europe.
An Egyptian man warns Westerners that a nightmare is coming when Islam reaches critical mass.
Europeans are about to wake up in a nightmare very, very soon. There's people who look like me with the beard and the dark hair, and they flee from the terror and the Islam, okay? Or for example, I'm half German, half Egyptian, born in Germany. I still look like them, okay? And then there's people that look like me. They didn't flee from the terror. They flee with the terror and with the Islam, which is most of them. To be f***ing honest, it's not the other way around. You don't know what is sleeping and just waiting to reach a critical mass. If you liberal people don't like to listen to some white man, then listen to me now, okay? Because I'm telling you, because I know how these people are. I've been there, I've lived there for a year. They hate you. And you will wake up in a fucking nightmare, and a fucking nightmare.
To the Western leaders, your time is up. Your borders are fading. Your disease is being sucked out. And the unity of the Islamic Brotherhood is taking form. The sons of Islam have already pledged that this battle is a battle of either victory or martyrdom. We reject your flags, and the call for jihad has started, and it won't be long before it is you that will be feasted upon.
Huge bombshell news today. The Rape Gang Inquiry report has just been published in full. It lays bare the astonishing scale of the rape, abuse and torture of potentially hundreds of thousands of young white girls at the evil hands of predominantly Pakistani Muslim men and men from other Muslim countries. Between 2005 and 2017, found that 84% of the perpetrators were South Asian, with the vast majority Pakistani Muslim. The victims were often called white trash or kafar, and victim testimony reveals that they were targeted specifically for being non-Muslim. The report identifies the Islamic doctrine of al-wala wal-bara as a key factor. They say it's superiority of men over women, domination of non-believers, sex slavery, etc. The report also says that it is directly due to mass immigration that this ideology was brought into Britain. Jen said that they have no compassion, speaking of her attackers here, they have no compassion for the young girls that are out on the streets. They see us as slags, as white trash, as English pig dogs, she said they used to be called. She said Muslims don't like pigs and they don't like dogs. So they hate dogs, they hate pigs, and they put women on the same level as that. Another survivor called Kate basically said that the Muslim girls that she knew were not treated in anywhere near the same way as the white British girls, highlighting the discrepancy there based around race and religion. The issues of religious-based anti-white racism is actually a constant theme in this report. It quotes the testimony of one survivor, Dr. Ella Hill, who told the J Inquiry back in 2022, again a warning that what I'm about to say is distressing. She said, "I was told that I must respect their religion. This was the first of many confusing lies that I was forced to believe. I was told that to show Muslims respect, I mustn't eat pork. I was told that Muslim girls are good and pure and stay virgins until marriage, but all white girls are slags, and they all sleep with hundreds of people. I was told that white girls are trash, they're all whores, they don't obey Allah, so they deserve to be punished. They don't dress modestly. Muslim women are pure because they cover down to their ankles and down to their wrists, and the hem of their top comes below their knees. White girls show the curves of their body, so they are asking for it. They should be raped as punishment for not obeying Allah. Kafir girls are worthless. Sex with a kafir girl doesn't count as adultery. If you're not a virgin before marriage, you should be beaten. She says that many times she was told that the Quran says if one of your wives disobeys you, beat her. This was often quoted to me before they beat me with their hands. They believed they had a position of religious moral superiority over non-believers. They believed it was their duty to punish us, as they believed that doing so made them good Muslims. This is what they were taught by their mothers. They were taught that witches in Pakistan are blonde, so blondes are more evil, and they deserve worse punishment. She says she was told that in Islam, if a girl or woman looks at a man who isn't her brother, father or her husband, then that means that she wants to have sex with him. So I was told to look at the floor when I was around Muslim men. So when I did look at a waiter in a restaurant, I was then taken away and gang raped as punishment. I was told that according to their faith community, girls are old enough for sex when they start their periods at age 11. Many of us had to endure the sexual act of thighing, which I'm now told is a religiously sanctioned way of molesting children, according to some Islamic scriptures. She says she was intimidated with guns, threatened with body parts being cut off with knives. She says, when I tried to escape, I was told that I had offended their honour, so they had to spill my blood. The report claims that another survivor, known as Sarah, says that her abuser presented her with a certificate from a mosque and declared that they were married according to Islamic rites. Later, he divorced her under Sharia procedure, simply stating, I divorce you 3 times. She was then immediately married in a ceremony conducted by an imam to a man she did not know. Within minutes of the ceremony ending, while the wedding party continued downstairs, she was raped by her new, quotes, husband. Over the years, Sarah was subjected to 8 forced abortions, one of them 5 months into pregnancy. In a separate case, Anna was living in a children's home in Bradford in 2002. From the age of 13, she was raped and abused while in the home, and at 15, she was forced into a Sharia marriage. Her social worker attended the marriage ceremony and permitted her husband's parents to foster her after she became pregnant. The parents received a fostering allowance from the state. She says she became a domestic slave. The report also claims that clan culture from countries like Pakistan has played a role in the abuse, saying family honour is primarily vested in conduct, modesty and virginity of girls and women. Strict codes require obedience, covering and restriction interaction with outsiders. Breaches within the community trigger severe sanctions, including honour killings or collective retaliation by male clan members. When the target is a non-Muslim girl, particularly white British girls, well, actually, the risk calculation shifts. They don't fear any kind of dishonour from harming them. No retaliation is expected from the girl's family or community, so they feel emboldened to act in that way. This view of women escalates into organised networks that traffic girls across regions, and that, frankly, this kind of level of impunity fuels the cycle. Initial assaults without consequences create a perception of Britain as a place where such behaviour takes no risk, turning vulnerable girls into commodified products. Now, the report also states, and this is important, that abuse was perpetrated by these gangs against Hindu and Sikh girls, but especially the Sikh community mobilised against it in a way that the white population did not, potentially due to fears of being called racist by the establishment. Now, the rape gang inquiry lays a lot of blame at the door of mass immigration, saying that across the West, our historic respect for individuals has, thanks to mass immigration, been overpowered by the more primitive attitudes that prevail elsewhere, according to which group membership matters most first and foremost. The elite's obsession with diversity has invited the latter to take advantage of the former. Scare words like Islamophobia and racism have been deployed to exploit the goodwill of Western host societies, paralysing investigations and enforcement. And
so
just
as
finally,
you probably both know, my mother tongue is Arabic, so I speak to people who are from those cultures. I mean, now it's a bit harder because they usually recognize me, but in the past when I would speak to them, here is what they would say to me in Arabic. The West is a woman to be mounted, right? And in Arabic, there are much more vulgar terms to use for that, you know, euphemism, if you'd like. That's how they view the West. So all of the traits that we consider virtuous in the West, magnanimity, compassion, endless empathy, kindness, what is read by those folks is weakness, 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 and weakness. So until you have Western leaders that actually speak the cultural language of the people that we are engaging, we're just going to be repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
As Minister of Social Justice, I would like to thank our Muslim communities for the positive contribution they make to our diverse society in Wales. The Welsh Government fully supports Islamophobia Awareness Month and condemns any form of discrimination against our Muslim communities and the Islamic faith. We are committed to delivering an anti-racist Wales by 2030 through our ambitious and radical action plan.